Make a left hand fist, right hand open, courtesy. Alright, so today we're looking at the wooden dummy. I'm glad you guys have made an effort to come along. We're going to be really focusing on the first 10. I know a lot of you guys have a version of the dummy, so what we'll be doing is looking at that first 10 movements. Refining, if you already have it, refining some of the movements you may be, cleaning any techniques that you might have incorrect, and really for the beginners to start getting the process along the way, getting it moving, and you guys can start understanding what we're trying to achieve here. So the first hour we'll really be looking at learning the wooden dummy routine, just the first 10 movements that way, and then the second hour we'll look at the applications. It's really important to learn the applications, that way you get a sense of what you're actually applying. Wooden dummy is very similar to working on a heavy bag. You know, when a person, or you watch a boxer practicing on a heavy bag, what are the skills that they're developing? They're developing the range, the distance it takes to apply techniques. You're learning to ground yourself and get good footwork, learn how to maneuver around the bag, and you're learning fluidity of movement, you know, getting your combinations of movement coming together in a way that is fluid, okay? So there's no difference to the wooden dummy. Essentially the only difference is the wooden dummy has these limbs that protrude and represent. What do they represent? They obviously represent arms, but obviously a wooden dummy doesn't look like a person. They don't walk around like this, and you don't get attacked by someone attacking you like this. So how does it relate to a person? All right, often when we're working on the dummy, we're working right at the tip of the arm. The tip of the arm represents 2 points. The wrist, now the wrist we know represents a point of leverage over the limb, so you can control a person's leverage at the wrist. Okay. It also represents the elbow. The elbow is the point, the second bridge, where you can control a person's balance. Okay. So it's very important when you are practicing on the dummy that you're learning to work off the tip of the arm. Okay. The arms also these 2 points, meaning wrist to elbow or elbow to the target, also between these 2 points is the same, elbow to wrist. So even though you have this line of a limb, this position is also relevant, and also between these 2 points and these 2 points, it's wrist to elbow. So if that's the elbow and that's an uppercut, this point becomes almost the wrist and the hand, yeah? Okay? When looking at the dummy, you have this line of a limb. This limb represents a line of attack. So it could be a straight coming at you, it could be a round coming at you. So if it was a straight line, let's just imagine this could be maybe someone trying to punch you or hit you in the stomach or even kick you, or a stab maybe. So if this is the line of the force coming towards us, we really want to get ourselves out of the way of the line of the force. Same applies to these limbs. If this is a straight punch, we want to step off the line of the force. If it's a round punch, obviously it has no swinging parts, but we would turn to face a swinging punch. Okay? So you have to look at the dummy and be creative on how you see attacks coming. Okay? Alright, so let's get straight into the first 10 movements on the dummy. There are 16 sets. Okay, 16 sets of about 10 movements each. They say there's 108 techniques in the wooden dummy form. Some systems say 116, some say whatever. Look, I haven't ever really counted. All I know, there's 16 sets, and you repeat a lot of movements, like the Kan Sao. There's a Fuk Sao, Tok Sao section that you repeat a lot. Again, I don't want to overwhelm you today, and 10 movements will be enough just for 2 hours, believe me, okay? All right, so the first thing is generally when we start the wooden dummy form, we start it like any other form. Let's start in front of the wooden dummy, you bring your heels up, pull your hand back, bring your hip, and you're doing this opening step, And you're doing it from a bit of a distance. Okay? So you open into then you go into a left side neutral stance, and you change your side neutral stance twice. Now, then we enter. We do an entering technique and coming in here. This entering technique is a bridging movement. And it's usually done outside of a range of a kick. So what I mean by that is, John, if you just come over. We look at the different ranges. You have your striking range, you have your kicking range, and then you have entry technique range. So if we're at a range where I can hit here, that's great, okay? That's probably the closest exchange stage, okay? This is close quarter, now we're using elbows and things like this. But we're gonna think, okay, striking range, just step back a little bit. No striking range. Contact stage, kicking range. Okay, just come forward a bit. So if this is kicking range, if you just take a half step back, I have nothing now other than entry. Now, I would probably not enter straight in on a person like this, for obvious reasons. If John is set, and you go flying in on an entry technique, you're flying in on one leg, and he's sitting there, he's saying, yeah, come to Papa, I've got something for you. Because you're flying in on one leg. People so often see this movement and say, well, it's flawed, you know, you're off balance, you're on one leg, you're skipping in, why would you do this? Okay, so these two first movements, these movements when you change here, these two steps represent movement to the blind side. So if we're in a situation where we're outside a range of contact, just put your hand out, let's put your hand out. We cannot physically reach each other. And a person threatens, and I take two quick steps to the blind side, he now wants to adjust. As he adjusts, now I can move in. At the point where he turns, you have freedom now to do this technique because he's actually on one leg and he's turning to face you. He's not set. Now, when someone turns, they don't just turn on the spot sometimes, and a lot of you would have experienced this in more of a pressure test type situation when you're using the blindside theory. If John moves to my blind side, what am I doing? See how I'm maintaining that distance? Keep moving to my blind. I keep making that, because he has to move a lot further, because he's on the outside of the circumference, and I'm on the center of the circumference. I'm just turning. He goes 1, 2, and I do 1. You see how he has to move much more from, okay. So, if he's right out there, he has to be able to bridge this distance quite quickly, because I'm just going to turn. So he makes 2 quick steps, and then he can enter, yes. Then he can attack with this. He can also attack if he's quite close here, and I just take a full step back, he can enter at that point when I'm actually stepping back. But he has to be careful, because if I step and I'm set up now it's no good because I've set. So with the entry technique, you have to actually, if you're going after someone at that point, you have to be on them. You have to be moving with them. You don't want them to set and then try to enter, because then you're, as I said, you're skipping in on one leg. So the entry technique in this system is often misinterpreted and misunderstood. Okay? Now don't worry about the entry technique too much today, because that's a skill unto itself. You have to learn this actual action, and it takes time to practice this. So all we're going to do is we're going to be at a range where if I do a half step into a front stance, I can make contact with a Biel cell on the inside of the arm. This is just establishing a bridge, establishing a point of contact. Now, it's not just touching the arm. Don't think about if your person puts their hand up, I'm not just stepping in to touch them. Treat it as if you're selling an attack at them. If you're doing it parallel, just change your stance around. If I land parallel, it's like I'm firing a jab, a punch through the inside of his arm. I want him to feel threatened by that action. Okay? So I'm stepping in, I land, if I'm in parallel, toe to toe, or just outside the front foot, and I'm driving my fingers at his eye. Now I can't reach him, I shouldn't be able to reach him. But you're going to get the bridge, the establishment of a bridge, and then you're going to start getting information. Okay? Now it doesn't seem like a very important technique, but this is what we're going to start with. We're going to make 2 quick movements to the blind side. As the person turns, we move in. Now, don't start too close. Don't start too close. All right? We're going to start this application in a minute. First of all, we're going to make lines at the dummy. You'll take a turn. Just change twice. You start with the left side neutral stance. You change twice. Then you move in. And just make contact. Now, when you're making contact with the arm, again, be very careful because the wooden dummy is unforgiving. You got all these hard, bony bits. We're not making contact with the hand or this bony section on your wrist. You're making contact with the fleshy part of your wrist. And when I make contact, I'm not pushing across, I'm firing forward. Because of the angle of the arm, my arm, just come up, just put your hand out a little bit. It's coming like a deflection. It's not like a hit, it's not swinging across, it deflects forward. Okay, so same on the dummy here. Rather than try to push the arm across, you drive it forward. So your arm, the line of your arm and the line of the dummy is parallel. There's no clash, it's a deflection. All right, so some people can have a go on this one. 1, 2, 3. Grab some lines, get into some lines. Start just 1, 2, and then stepping in. Left hand make contact. All right, let's start this. Quick, grab a part.